So I'm going to start the session today about and focus on two frameworks which in my mind aren't competing with each other but actually complementing each other. And the first one is going to be Selenium 4 and the other one is Cypress. I will skip my intro because Jenna, you did a great job kind of presenting myself, presenting me. So if you do want to continue conversations and follow me and ask other questions, because that's a very short time that I have today, feel free to do it either via Twitter or LinkedIn. I'm trying to be available on almost all media channels. So let's start with, before I talk about Selenium and Cypress, we need to understand where both of these frameworks actually fit in the landscape. And when I talk about web testing, I always use this visual because I think we are now in a place within the industry where we are looking at web testing in three different dimensions. Okay, the first one is the WebDriver protocol-based frameworks, which is Selenium, WebDriver IO, Nightwatch, and the likes. And these are the legacy tools, if you like. I'm not saying that they are not good. I'm just saying these frameworks have been with us for over a decade, even more. The middle layer are the more modern frameworks, which are CDP oriented, Chrome Debugger Protocol based, and these are the Puppeteer from Google and Playwright from Microsoft. For those of you who are not familiar with either of those, Puppeteer originated from Google. The same team that built Puppeteer then moved to Microsoft and just took the baseline for Puppeteer and built Playwright. And Playwright is a bit more mature than Puppeteer because it has more browsers and more language bindings than just Chromium and JavaScript. Playwright also supports .NET and Python, etc., and has actually a bit more capabilities in my mind than Puppeteer. But this is the middle layer of frameworks. And the other, or the last layer, is Cypress, which is the JavaScript running inside the browser. And it has a lot of benefits. Okay, when you're testing inside the browser, you get the execution speed, you get debugging capabilities, which are very rich, and some would say less flakiness. I would argue about the flakiness here because flakiness, in my mind, is attributed also to how you design your test automation, and I will touch on that during this session as well. But just to set the ground, these are the three main types or models or architectures, as you wish, in the cross-browser testing landscape as of today. If you look at some trends, you would see that Cypress is kind of rocking the market with the most number of downloads compared to Playwright, Selenium, and Puppeteer. Playwright is catching up. Playwright, we need to be fair, is the newest among all the different frameworks. Cypress is for a few years in the market, but Cypress obviously gets much more downloads than the others. Selenium, again, also it's a bit unfair to look at the numbers because Selenium also contributes to, WebDriver IO is built on top of Selenium, and there are other frameworks that are leveraging Selenium. So if you aggregate all of the Selenium based frameworks, it might be a bit higher. Actually, it's going to be higher than what you see right now on the screen. But definitely, I'm typically asked, okay, so what about Test Cafe? What about Robot framework? You can see also some placeholder from this screenshot, right? Casper.js. There are many frameworks, but if you look at the numbers and you look at the adoption in the marketplace, these are the 3-4 frameworks which we see mostly adopted. Me within Perfecto, within Perforce. These are the frameworks that my customers are using the most. It's not that they don't know about Test Cafe or Robot or other frameworks. They adopt the Selenium, Cypress, and sometimes also starting to look at Playwright when you're dealing with web testing. Let's look at Cypress. I'm going to start with Cypress and then move to Selenium 4, and then I really hope I will have time to do a short demo. I will try to speak fast, but not too fast so you understand, but also I will leave some time so you can see, at least one of these technologies in reality live. So as I mentioned earlier, Cypress runs in the browser. It's just JavaScript. It's not all of the browsers. It's just Chrome, Edge, and Firefox on Windows and Mac. It doesn't support WebKit Safari as of today. It's in the roadmap. But without the browsers and the other languages, this is a very powerful framework based on JavaScript. It's asynchronous framework, which we know what it means. You need to deal with a lot of things, but JavaScript is the leading language in the web development landscape, and this is why Cypress is so well adopted by front-end web application developers. I can tell you within Perfecto that my team, the engineering team, I'm talking about the R&D, the ones that are building Perfecto cloud testing solution, they are testing our product with Cypress, okay? And I think that's a proof, right? If the developers that are actually building tools that support Cypress are actually testing the tool with their own dog food, if you like, it means that Cypress is actually a very strong and appealing framework for front-end developers. But you can see here that Cypress, from a framework perspective, it's built in two ways. This is what you see right now on the screen. That's the GUI mode. You can run from CLI as well. But in the GUI mode, what you can get is a nice way to create your test cases. I will soon talk also about the Cypress Studio, which allows you to record testing, test automation scripts. But you see the ability, you have the ability to look on the left hand and step by step and understand what's going on. It's a very synchronized way of clicking on the left panel of your Cypress GUI, and on the right hand you are going to see what's actually happening on the browser, on the web application itself, and you can get DOM snapshots, you can interact with the elements, you can learn the element locators of your web application. So it's a very powerful environment, even a mini IDE, if you like, for your web testing capabilities. Cypress is not just about the basic hello world. It's actually a very, very sophisticated and rich test automation framework for web applications. One of the key use cases I'm going to talk about more in the next few slides. One of the things that you can do with Cypress is use the Stub Navigator's APIs and kind of learn from your web application a lot of insights. In this case, I borrowed this example from my friend Gleb. Gleb Bahamutov, used to be a VP engineering for Cypress. Is no longer with Cypress, but he's still supporting the community. And that's a nice demo that he created, reading from a battery status APIs through the Stub Navigator capabilities. So that's one way of using Cypress to obtain data and read from a web application running in real time. Another powerful capability of Cypress, and we'll also touch a bit about that with Selenium, but with Cypress you can actually also do some retries to avoid flakiness. We talked about flakiness in the first slide, right, when we defined the different frameworks and architectures, but when you can define in a Cypress JSON format the number of retries before you fail a test, before you classify it as a flaky one, that's a huge and very easy to create capability within your test automation framework. So by default, you can set different configurations, even for a specific test scenario or for the entire suite. Cypress not just provides you the ability to put this retry mechanism, it can actually allows you to classify test cases or ignore them in case of a specific condition. So you can actually play with ignore and retry and other conditions in a very easy way as part of the configuration files, and this is very powerful. For example, if you're using feature flags or if you want to test only scenarios that are starting with a specific character or with a specific word on a specific platform, you can do it very easily through the Cypress JSON configuration file. You can also do some nice other things, which in my mind are quite complicated to do in other frameworks, especially with Selenium, and this is the switching of test environments. There are tools, I come from Perfecto, we are a cloud environment, and you can test locally, you can test in the cloud. You can use Perfecto with our new acquisition called BlazeMeter to do a lot of API testing and mocking. But in this regards, with Cypress, what you can do is you can specify a configuration file. You can see it here that defines different base URLs based on local, staging, testing, pre-production, production, okay? And you can run from your CLI through configuration of the module exports. So if you run Cypress with an environment configuration, which is either prod or staging or whatever, you're going to use different base URLs. think about CICD, right? Think about continuous integration. You can put this command in your CI or in different schedulers or triggers that will automatically choose the right test environment for you based on a specific suite, based on a specific commit that you're doing to your code, etc. So this is a nice way of using Cypress to really switch environment in real time as part of your schedule test cases. So I think I actually love this capability of Cypress. And there is actually a very nice blog that I came across from Philip Herrick. Is a Cypress ambassador on his own, and you can actually read and get some code samples on his blog on really how to set up your own different test environment switcher, like you see right now on the screen. Another capability of Cypress which I like is the Cypress Clock and Cypress Intercept. You can actually use these network control capabilities to really learn and analyze what's happening in your web application in real time by using the tick, right? Every 30 seconds, you can validate what's happening on the screen. So if you have a very dynamic web application, you can use Cypress wait, tick, and assert, or like you see here, you can make sure that for each foot here, the text file or whatever output will contain favorite fruits list, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. So this is a very advanced and quite easy to script in JavaScript capability to again deal with a very dynamic, constantly changing web application form or forms by using this interception or clock in this regards. The interception actually will allow you to do some mocking as well. So you can use, as I mentioned earlier, the stub APIs and others to really mock your pre-production environment or your unready environment in that regards, and really intercept network calls to a different origin or different endpoint, if you like, and continue testing earlier in the cycle. Cypress comes with a lot of plugins. I will soon touch on my favorite plugins, but Cypress also complements its functional testing with visual testing. And I know when you're dealing with responsive web applications, the UI UX is very critical. And what I've learned with Cypress, that you can use either the commercial tool from Apply Tools, or you can use the plugin to Hapo, and Hapo.io, that's the visual tool that Cypress plays nicely with, allows you to really do a snapshot of your web application and validate different user outputs across different platforms as well, viewports if you like, in a nice way. So it's a bit more sophisticated than just using cypress.cy.screenshot, which just takes screenshots. These tools actually do this analysis and comparison and gets you the additional layer of user experience with visual testing. So if you're interested in learning more, you can go to this Hapo Cypress GitHub repository and see how to use it. You can install, just to get started, you can install and generate your token and security key, and just start using Hapo with Cypress as is. Obviously, if you exceed the basic usage, as far as I understand, Hapo also has obviously a commercial paid version. By the way, I didn't mention it, Cypress also, while it's an open source, and that's the powerful piece of Cypress, you also have a paid version of Cypress, which is the dashboard with the parallel testing and with the flakiness and other reporting advanced capabilities. Cypress, not like the CDP frameworks, which are Puppeteer and Playwright, which are built on CDP, Cypress can work with the browser dev tools through the CDP. So if you want to leverage some of the Chrome debugging protocol and the dev tools, Lighthouse, etc., you can do it easily through the plugins. You just need to install, you need to configure the Cypress JSON and the index.js to put the required package of Lighthouse, etc., and you can then interact with the CDP and get whatever you like back to your Cypress terminal. Almost lastly, for Cypress, Cypress plays nicely with the majority of the CICD tools. These are the logos of the CI tools that are very well documented on the Cypress website. This is just a snapshot of the GitHub actions that you would do with Cypress. but you can read about CICD in this link that I provided here. But just to summarize, Cypress plays nicely with developers, and it plays nicely with all of the CI/CD tools, most of them in the industry. So once you're solidifying your test scenarios, you can easily integrate them into Circle CI, GitLab, GitHub Actions, Bitbucket, and the likes. Cypress can also do API testing. I don't know if many of you have tried it. I actually tried it. You see my name here, so that's my name. I have done some API testing with Cypress. It's not rest assured. It's not, SOAP UI. It's not the best or the most, complex API testing tools. In other sessions that I gave, I was asked about contract testing as well. Cypress is good to some extent with API testing. It can cover all, the post, get, all the other API methods that you need for your website, but it's not as sophisticated, especially from the creation standpoint, like other dedicated API testing tools. But still, think about it. You can do accessibility and API and visual and functional, and soon I'll touch a bit on single user performance testing in a single framework, and this is quite powerful. So to some up until a certain level of complexity, you can use just Cypress for multiple test automation types, as I mentioned, functional and non-functional. Cypress plays nicely, like, by the way, this is common to almost all the frameworks that I touched recently. Cypress, Selenium, Playwright, and Puppeteer, they all play nice with Istanbul based on Babel. So you can instrument your source code of your web application and run Cypress with code coverage. You'll get a nice output report. You can see it here, which gets reported to your Cypress local directory, and you can analyze all the different coverage items. If you want to get started, it's very easy. You install this package of code coverage with Cypress. You add to the index.js this import line, and to the index.js, you add also the export, the required capability of Cypress code coverage. And then after you instrument your code, you will run it with with the code coverage enabled plugin, and you will get also the output of your code coverage. I think it's a nice and powerful capability. I mentioned accessibility. Accessibility with Cypress is mostly covered through the AXC by DQ tool. So you again install the package, the plugin from the NPM store, and you are adding the check accessibility, Cypress.check accessibility commands into your scripts based on a specific page, web application that you have, multiple pages or just components. Cypress also supports component testing, and then you get also the accessibility reports back to your dashboard. This is, by the way, how it will look like when you're looking at a spec.js test. You will see here the assertion. You will get the results in a nice visual way. When you click on them, you get you see the DQ University. You get a link that explains you the violation of your accessibility, and you can mitigate it and move forward. Accessibility is top of mind for everyone. So if you are doing Cypress today, install the AXC plugin and validate, obviously, across these different platforms that you support. Something new, which is still in an experimental stage right now, that's the component testing. It's an innovative approach in my mind, and this is what Cypress provides to the industry, allowing you to really close a bit of the gaps between unit and integration test. Everyone knows the test pyramid. What Cypress component testing allows you to do is kind of close the gap between two layers of your application by building or testing components of your application, parts of your application, if you like, in an end-to-end manner or in a functional manner. And it's done through, as you can see here, you need to add or mount the specific area of your website into JavaScript, into your test code, test it, as a standalone, if you like. You can do it with Vue, JS, or React application. To do or to utilize it after enabling component testing, you will simply run Cypress Open with the OpenCT, that's the component testing enabler, and then you will get the ability to run and validate a specific subset of your application from a functional standpoint. Another thing which is experimental, I will try to demonstrate it soon in my demo. That's the Cypress Studio. Think about it. It's a record and playback done in the GUI mode. It's built into the framework. You don't need to install anything. You just need to enable it within your Cypress file, configuration file, and that's it. I will talk a bit about it when I'm demonstrating the GUI part. Performance testing can be done either built in by using the performance mark, okay, which comes with Cypress, or by using the Lighthouse. Okay, as I mentioned, Cypress can play nice with the CDP and also integrate with Lighthouse. When you're using Lighthouse, you actually get all these different performance KPIs back into your console, your terminal, or your test results, if you like. And these are some of the supported KPIs that you get also from the F12 in your Chrome browser, but you can get them in an automated fashion by embedding them into your Cypress scripts. Lastly, before I move to Selenium, I just wanted to say a word because I think I was asked in a different conference about page object model. Selenium is very strong with page object model. Cypress can also do page object model. It can do it either as I call, or as Cypress advises, the hard way, just writing a class and using the import to utilize methods and objects from this page object model class, or on the other way, or the better way, to use commands. You can create commands that kind of encapsulate methods like username, password, login, and other capabilities within your web application. Or the best way or the fastest way is using app action, and these are the custom commands, and you can customize commands which again encapsulates things that you want to do on your website, but without creating tons of files and maintaining them with custom commands. And there is a nice link here. It's a bit old, but it's still relevant. You can see here that with a React application, you can actually do with custom commands a lot of things. You can just with one function go to a specific website, which includes a lot of to-do lists, and just add few to-do lists in one single call, which is much faster than 3 different classes with other spec JSs that you need to maintain. So if you're interested in page object model with Cypress, I recommend to go to this link and look at the app actions and how you can create them. I talked about almost about all the different plugins within Cypress. You can see most of them here: component testing, visual testing, code coverage, BDD, accessibility, and much more. Again, it's very dynamic. If you're interested in learning more about plugins, cypress.io has all the plugins listed. Let's move in the time that I have to Selenium. Selenium, again, isn't new. That's why I didn't allocate tons of time in my session. But with Selenium 4, which is fully W3C compliant as of last September, that was when it was released, supports many things. It can integrate with CDP, again, Chrome debugging protocol, which allows you to do a lot of things, not just the Lighthouse. You can actually block specific types of content being loaded on your website, like images and stuff like that. You have a new look and feel. You have a new icon even for the Selenium thing. Selenium IDE was redeveloped and now runs on Firefox browser as well as on the Chrome that was the only browser that supported Selenium IDE. So now you have 2 browsers and a new modern way of using Selenium IDE. These are just few changes that you would do with your code if you are moving from Selenium 3 or below to Selenium 4. You will need to make it very W3C compliant, and these are a few of the changes that you will need to do. For example, you will need the find element by ID will be now find element in brackets by .id. So these are just few changes, but there is a full guide on how to convert your existing script to Selenium 4. But again, it's not a slam dunk. You need to comply with W3C and the right formats. A new grid was created. I played with it. It's very intuitive. It's very easy to use. You just need to download, of course, the right Selenium Grid jar file and configure it properly, but it allows you to very easily manage your multiple parallel executions. As I'm representing also Perfecto, Perfecto provides this exact Selenium Grid, but in our cloud, so you don't need to set up anything locally. You can run all of your Selenium, by the way, also Cypress tests in parallel in the cloud across regions and browsers without this local headache. So this is just kind of my own commercial, if you like. Selenium, I think that's one of the biggest features in my mind that people were asking for. Now supports relative locators, which means if you have a very complex, maybe sometimes duplicate elements on your web application, with Selenium 4, you can specify, you can see here to left of this element or to the right or below, etc. And this allows you to really focus your click or your action on an element locator based on the relative locators methods that are supported from Selenium 4 onwards. So you can see here to left of, below, etc., etc. Something that Cypress does not support and Selenium does support is, for example, a very simple way to work with multiple tabs and windows, which was enhanced and now works nice with Selenium 4. You can see here a nice code snippet. You can go to the click this link once you get the slides and learn even more or download the code snippet. But you can see here that you can use the get window handle to really navigate and operate on specific tabs within your web application or even different windows. And this is something that, for example, like iframes and other sophisticated web applications, it's a bit harder to do with Cypress. Some of them can be done, but it requires a lot of effort. With Selenium, it's a bit easier. A final summary between these two frameworks. Again, I'm not competing one versus the other. I'm just saying you can benefit from both. A few of the features that I mentioned earlier with Cypress aren't available in Selenium and vice versa. When you combine these two frameworks together, you actually get a very strong testing strategy across your web applications. So I actually recommend combining both. But this is just a lot of the points that I mentioned and maybe a summary of the things that you need to take under consideration when you're looking into these two frameworks. But again, both are very mature, very robust, rich with features. But again, they have some differences, and these are just a few on top of what I mentioned earlier in this presentation. Before we move to Q&A, and I think I did it exactly on time, let me try and show you a demo. For that, I would like, I don't know, Jenna, if you can still hear me. Just let me know if you can see my VS Code. Can you see my Visual Studio Code?
You're good. I can see it. Sorry.
Awesome.
It was bringing me in. Yeah, you're good. We can see it.
Okay, so what you see right now here, that's my Visual Studio Code with an installed Cypress framework. And you can see here, it comes with a lot of examples. Some of them I created myself. Some of them came with Cypress. And you can see here, there are a bunch of capabilities and scenarios. This spec.js, for example, that's the example that I created for my API testing. So here I have
sorry, Eran. So you've got plenty of time. You can go a little deeper in the demo if you want, or you can talk about some additional things if you'd like to.
Okay, how much time do I have more?
You've got like 50 minutes. You're totally fine. Go as deep as you want.
15, right?
50.
50. Oh,
yeah,
excellent. Oh, I thought. Oh, so what did I learn? Okay, awesome. That's good. So yeah, I'll actually focus now more on the demo. And now that I know that I have time, it's even greater. So cool. What you can see then on my screen, that's a local installation of Cypress. I think it's prior to the latest version. Cypress is releasing almost every 2 or 3 weeks a new version, minor one. So that's almost the latest version. But you can see here, this is an example of an API test. Basically, I just go to this freeware website for API testing. It was built for API testing. I have my own personal token, and I'm just adding some to-do lists to this website. So that's an example of an API test that you can do with Cypress. What I'm also, I think it's a very cool thing to do with Cypress is, especially because Cypress is not a mobile-friendly solution like Selenium. Selenium has its kind of native brother called Appium. So Appium is the web driver for mobile native application and hybrid application testing. With Cypress, Cypress is very focused on web, but what can we do for web is web and mobile, which means you want to test web applications across both, the desktop web application, platforms, and mobile viewports at least, right? With the Cypress viewport and other configuration, you can actually specify, you can see here a bunch of different viewports like MacBook and iPad and iPhone and whatever, and portrait versus landscape, and you can play with different layouts of your, to test a specific website, few windows or whatever. So that's a nice add-on to the Cypress APIs or framework that you can use. You can also, as I mentioned, use the network control APIs and do this network stubbing and mocking. I mentioned earlier the switching of environments. It's very easy to do. When you install Cypress, you have a few things that you want to know. First, one of the key files is obviously the cypress.json. As you will see, you get a project ID. The project ID is what you need, and you will also get it in the dashboard when you go to the Cypress dashboard web application, which you get to log into. But what I'm actually doing with this Cypress JSON in this case is I'm setting true to the experimental studio, because I'm going to also show you this record and playback tool that Cypress provides you, like the Selenium ID provides, by the way. Another interesting thing that you can do with Cypress, let me see, is specify locations. Okay, with Cypress, you can actually specify longitude and latitude of your web application, and validate that maybe on a specific web application, when you are navigating to a different geography, you're going to get a pop-up, you're going to get a different output as a user. And since Cypress is based also on Mocha, you also have the ability to use all the assertions capabilities which comes with Mocha, Mocha.js, and much more. Basically, to run Cypress, what you will need to do, again, you can run it with just a specific command line interface and run either all of the spec.js that you have built, or you want to use the GUI method. And here I'm going to use the GUI runner, if you like. Let me just give it a second to load. So now what you see right now on my screen, that's the Cypress GUI. The Cypress GUI allows you to add a new spec file. It shows me which browsers I have locally, Edge 98 and Firefox 97 and Chrome 98. I have 3 browsers. Actually, I have also Electron 94, which comes built in with Cypress as well. And to run a spec, you just need to click on it. Okay, let's, for example, click on action spec.js. You will see that local Chrome browser, because I selected the Chrome local browser on my machine, is being launched, and all these test scenarios are running, and you can see the fast execution here, right? I mentioned earlier that Cypress runs in the browsers, which means you're getting fast feedback. You get all these execution done in seconds. Once the execution is completed, and you can see here all the tests passed, this is a nice way of interacting with the DOM, and you can see, as I mentioned, a synchronized view. You can see here in this test body, when I'm clicking on the left panel, you see it on the right hand. And when I click on the elements, everything is being highlighted. Okay, and you can see here, I can open the selector background, and I can actually mouse over each and every item in my web application. So think about the front-end developer, but also the SDET, the test automation engineer. He can really interact with the web application under test, get and learn all the elements before he's actually recording or creating his test scripts, but definitely view the execution after it was completed, okay, in a synchronized way. So think about this step, for example, might have failed. I can just click on that and see what happened. It might be a bug. It might be that I didn't use the right element locator. It might, the element locator might have changed as well. So this is a nice side-by-side way of using Cypress test cases on the left, or test steps on the left, with the actual web application under test on the right. So this is something that I think it's quite cool. And if I, let's say, want to make it even more sophisticated, right? This test ended in this point. When I click on that, let me see if I have it enabled. Yes, let's see. A second. I should be able to close that. No, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm sorry. See if I still have it open. Yeah, I wanted to click on that. Okay, when you see this step again, this is not creating a new test. This is just editing an existing test spec. I can actually use this add command to test. When I click on that, okay, look at what happens. You see this Studio Beta is becoming enabled, and I can now exactly synchronize to the left panel that I've showed you. Add a new step. Here I can add live ZappleTech event or whatever, okay? And click enter, and you will see that this step, you see it here, was added to my script. This is the record and playback. So I've added in real time in my running script a new command or a new test to my JavaScript. So if I click on save commands here, okay, I will close this IDE, okay, this window. I will close the Cypress Studio. Now, when I go, I should have remembered which file I added. I think it was the action spec, right? So let's see when I scroll down, because I added something to the Cypress Studio. Let me search for. Yeah, okay. You can see that generated with Cypress Studio. Okay, I've added two new commands to my JavaScript file for the Cypress Studio without really writing any line of JavaScript. Okay, and you see here live ZappleTech event, and I click on enter. So now when I'm going to run this specific test again, obviously it will use this Cypress Studio additional lines of code. And by the way, these lines could be for debugging purposes, can be just easy test creation, or I can record an end-to-end scenario from scratch using this Cypress Studio capability. The nice thing about Cypress Studio is it's not the best and most sophisticated solution. It's still in beta, by the way, but it's either an entry-level tool for you to get started with JavaScript test creation and with Cypress. From that point, once it's in your IDE, you can maximize and add assertions and add much more sophisticated steps to your automation. But again, that's a nice add-on, a nice complementary capability that comes for free with Cypress. Another thing that is nice and comes with Cypress is the ability to run. You see here, I have 1, 2, 3, I have like 10 different specs, and each spec has multiple test cases. What I can actually do here, I can run them easily in parallel in the cloud. Okay, what I'm talking here is I can actually create a zip file of everything that you see here under integration. Integration usually holds all of the test specification in JavaScript. You can actually create different folders and different specs under this hierarchy. When you install through the npm store npm perfecto-cypress -SDK, npm Cypress perfecto Cypress SDK, then you get the ability to zip everything that you have just created and upload it to the cloud. The beauty of that, or the benefit of that, is the parallel testing. Doing parallel testing with Cypress isn't that straightforward, and it's usually going to use whatever you have from a browser perspective, what you have locally. If you've seen in the GUI mode, I had Chrome 98, I had Firefox, and I have Edge 97, I think. I have 3 browsers. So I can execute on either one of these 3 browsers, or on all of these 3 in parallel. I just need to enable the record and parallel testing with Cypress, but it's feasible. But it's not perfect. When you're using this SDK, okay, what you can do, you can put, like you do with Selenium, desired capabilities. You can configure in this JSON config file. That's the only thing you need to do, okay? You can add as many browsers, as many instances of these browsers, like here, Windows 10 with Chrome latest, Windows 10 with Edge latest, Mac OS Big Sur with Chrome 98, Windows 10 with Firefox latest. I can go on and on, okay? Once I'm adding that and running the Cypress command, that's the only configuration you need to do, by the way. Okay, obviously you need to have credentials to the cloud, okay, with the security token, but that's all. That's everything that you need to do. It doesn't change any of your Cypress scripts, and by that, you get the zip file, it's uploaded to your private cloud, and you run it in parallel at scale. The way it's going to look is as follows. I'm going to open my demo cloud in the browser. And once I'm in the demo cloud, if you go to the live stream of the Perfecto thing, you see I'm running Eran Cypress test. You see it's just started, a few moments ago. Okay. Once it's the video is live, you can see it here. Okay. Once the execution is ready to start, okay, everything what you see right now is clean VMs. Okay. We are setting up new virtual machines in the cloud with Edge 98, with Chrome, Mac OS, etc. So we are building up new clean virtual machines with browsers. We are installing on these browsers Cypress. Okay, everything is fresh. That's why it's taking about 1 to 2 minutes to set up each and every browser. But think about it, you can get 20 or 100 browsers if you like. And then once it's done, it uploads to that VM the zip file and runs the Cypress run command. You can monitor while it's doing that the execution in the terminal. I'm using Visual Studio Code. You can do it from IntelliJ or any other IDE. But basically, once the setup is done in the cloud, you can start seeing the execution running as fast as it was running locally. But again, it's done for you as a service in a cloud-based environment. So let me just check in 1 second. Yes, once all these checkboxes are ready, you can see here that it checks all the dependencies, the Node.js dependencies, the versions, the browsers, and also uploads the zip file. Everything becomes green here, and then you'll start seeing the execution, live in the cloud. While it's still setting it up, for those of you who are not familiar with this UI of Perfecto, again, this is a cloud-based environment for running both web and mobile application testing, native application testing with Appium or other frameworks, as well as Selenium for web. And basically, you get all of these platforms as a service. You get real mobile devices, virtual mobile devices, desktop browsers that you can automate on or do actually manual testing on them, again, in the cloud, in parallel, in different geographies. Okay, the clouds are spread into 6 continents, okay, all over the world. We have multiple data centers, and with that, you can actually run and scale your test automation with CI, without CI, again, and everything that gets executed in real time gets to the report library. So once the execution will be completed, you will see here that everything gets stored in your report library and actually even classified. I will talk a bit about it in just a few moments, but every execution that you are doing gets classified in the report automatically through machine learning. So we talked a bit about flakiness. So if you have an error in your test script, and it's classified as failure because, I don't know, an element wasn't found, a pop-up happened, or whatever, or a configuration was not set up correctly, okay, it will be automatically classified so you can fix it and maybe exclude it from your environment. But while I was talking, you see that the execution already started. I can actually maximize the window so you will see it better. But that's actually all of the executions happening on 4 or 5 different browsers. The entire zip file that I've just uploaded to the cloud, okay, that's the action spec that I've shown you, okay. I think it will actually add the ZappleTech. You saw the live ZappleTech. So everything that I uploaded to the cloud is now executed for me in parallel at scale across Chrome and Firefox and Edge and Chrome on Mac OS as well. All of the scripts. We don't need to wait for everything because I think I have like 20 JavaScript specification files, but you get the point, right? It's done. It's being executed for you at scale in the cloud. Okay. Maybe let's just look at one report. I will just refresh my library. Okay, you can see here that's Cypress. Sorry. Okay, I think that's 11:26. Okay, so that's now the report is up to date. Okay, let's see if I have. You can see here that's a Cypress report that was uploaded to the cloud, and you see here that maybe I'll just click on the video and that's it. We'll show you the video, the recording. So that's basically the kitchen sink. It's a very short step or test, but it was also recorded as video. So it's not just running for you in the cloud in parallel. You also get the recording that you can download, plus the Cypress log. So if I want to download the Cypress logs for this specific execution, I can actually download the log file and open and review it. Okay? So that was a bit of a short demo of Cypress. In the time that I have, I also want to show you the exact same thing, but with Selenium. Okay. The nice thing about Selenium, obviously, is that Selenium comes with a grid, but it has the price of this client-server communication. So in this demo that I'm showing you, I simply use a native Selenium in Java. I'm using Java here. You have seen JavaScript with Cypress in the previous demo. Here I'm using Java, and here I'm testing at massive scale. Okay, you will soon see that, and you will understand. I'm going to test Selenium, and this is not something that I can do easily with Cypress. With Selenium, I'm using a real Samsung Galaxy S9, a real Galaxy Note 10, iPhone 7, iPhone 11, Chrome 89, Chrome 92. Look at all of these configurations. So I specified all of these configurations in my test. And here I'm actually going to the website of the Boston Globe. You see here, I'm opening a driver connection and I'm navigating to the Boston Globe website to simply provide or subscribe to their newsletter or paper, whatever, in that sense. So basically, it's a Maven project in Java, going and testing the Boston Globe subscription capabilities, and I'm using TestNG as my data provider. And you see here, all of these configurations are running against this test on delivery sign-up class in Java. So it's very straightforward. When I click on running this project, this Maven project, I'm going to open, I don't know, about 20 or something different driver connections to both web and mobile platforms to run and test my responsive web. Boston Globe is a responsive web application, and you see it here when I go to the live stream. Okay, I'm just going to use my name, which is Eran K, and you're going to see in few seconds, okay, mobile, desktop web, tablets, all populating at the same time, running this Selenium script in Java in parallel. It's a very fast script, so I will try and catch something before it closes. Let me just see if I can catch maybe this mobile. Okay, you can see here, it closed. I'll try to catch this one. But basically, you see I'm putting my zip code here. I live in Boston, so I'm putting the zip code of my Boston area, which is 01801, and I'm putting my different credentials into this browser page and checking that everything works fine. So I don't know, I counted almost 20 different configurations, Chrome latest and beta and latest -2 and mobile and tablets for my responsive web. And this is a bit more simple to do than what you could have achieved, in my mind, with Cypress. Again, I'm not competing. I'm just saying that you can actually do few things with these two different frameworks. But when you're talking about scale and when you're talking about responsive web testing across both web, mobile, multiple platforms, including Safari WebKit, Selenium has some nice advantages. When I'm going to refresh, my reports, okay, I'll just refresh this entire reporting. You will see that I'll just zoom on one report that is, I think, ready, and this is the execution on Chrome Beta 99 on Windows 7. I know Windows 7 is old, but I'm actually dealing with customers that are still supporting this platform for legacy purposes and whatever. So you can see here, everything that I'm testing here gets recorded, both screenshots, logs, and videos. And you can see here all the zip codes, everything that I've done, finding the elements locator, taking a screenshot, everything is being done for me, so I can go back, and if I have any failure, I can debug it. If I ran it from CI, from Jenkins, I would have actually seen it here in my CI dashboard. I didn't, but I could have done it from Jenkins or Bamboo or Circle CI, and I've seen it. I could have seen it here as well. So with that, let me stop sharing my screen, and let's see if I have any challenging questions. I've spoken a lot. I've spoken about Cypress, its architecture. I spoke a bit about Selenium and Selenium 4 in specifically regarding its latest capabilities, like the relative locators, CDP, W3C compliance, and so on and so forth. I gave you some demos of Cypress running JavaScript specs within the GUI mode, and also in the cloud, and also the Cypress Studio. And then I've shown you Selenium running tests on a responsive web application on multiple platforms that was in Java. So now, in the time that I have left, I don't know how much time I still have left, but in the time that I have left, I'm happy to take any questions, any challenges that you have for me. So now it's that time.
Hey, all
Jenna.
right. That was a fantastic talk. Thank you so much.
Sure.
While we wait for questions to come into the chat, I think I have a few questions for you. So you mentioned integration with DQ, and for anybody who doesn't know, I'm a huge fan of DQ. What are your thoughts around kind of when we think about accessibility and how much we can cover with automation? What are your thoughts around enhancing what we're doing with automation? How else should we be addressing that?
So I think that's a great question, and accessibility. If we have been talking like 2 years or even 1 year from now, it wasn't such a huge deal. It was still important, and I am a huge fan. I totally understand that every application, not just web, mobile, desktop, anything needs to be accessible for any impaired users with whatever lack of capabilities that they have. With regards to making that a reality for these guys, to your point, we need to enable testers and developers to do better testing in an automated fashion, because when it's done manually, it's not that no one cares. No one has the time to do it. So we need to enrich the automation. I've been working over the past few months, I would say, with a different vendor. DQ are, the leaders, and they're doing tons of work for accessibility. We are partners. Perfecto is a proud partner of DQ for web and mobile accessibility, and they're doing great. But when you're talking about mobile accessibility and you need to do like screen readers and all these different complex use cases, I wouldn't say it falls short, but it's not as sophisticated, if you like, especially from an automated testing perspective. And this is where I actually want to throw a name to the audience, and this is eVinced, EVINCED. I don't know if you are all familiar with this vendor. It's a new one, by the way. They are very focused on mobile accessibility testing, automation. It's built on top of Appium, but it actually does a nice snapshot of your application and provides you a nice way of automating accessibility testing across almost any mobile device, locally, in a cloud environment or whatever. And I think that plus DQ. I love your cat. I have 2 cats myself, but mine are sleeping all day. Mine are always sleeping. I don't know. They're very tired. So yeah, I think that there is still room to grow in the accessibility space to make it kind of an equal citizen within the testing space. So people will shift left. I hate to say shift left so many times, but you do want to make sure that you are testing accessibility like you do any functional testing on your application, and you need to do it as code changes, because you might have broken something that will cause accessibility failures. So DQ, eVinced, and I have actually seen even Apple and Google. We cannot say something without mentioning these 2 guys, right? So Apple and Google are providing for free native accessibility scanners. In my platform, in Perfecto, we actually embrace these native scanners for teams that don't want to do too much accessibility testing because they don't have a very complex application. They can settle with just these built-in native scanners. So we just added it as an Appium capability in Perfecto, and it just runs this XUI scanners from iOS, from Apple, and the Google Android scanner on the Android application, and you get a nice report. So again, room for growth, but we're not yet there.
Yeah, I agree on that, and I think because we're not yet there, that's where unfortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately, because I really do embrace the manual. We do still have to do some look and feel, right? We still have to get in there, and turn on JAWS or try NVDA, or if you're on a Mac, you can turn on what is it, TalkBack?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a space I spent some time in, and it's so hard because as able people, we sometimes miss that while it technically meets the requirements of WCAG, it doesn't meet the heart of it. And so it passes, but it's still not usable. And that's where we have to, in my opinion, bridge the gap. Because automation can tell us some of that, but it can't tell us all of that. Apparently, Maka has decided that she is going to be a guest on the show, so we're gonna move her because now she's
if she has any questions, I'm happy to address even cat questions. Everything goes. By the way, Jenna, I've seen many questions around. I only focused on Cypress and Selenium in this session. I did mention a bit, Playwright, and I often get asked. So, is Playwright going to take everything that we've just built with Selenium and Cypress? Is it going to disrupt everything that we know? Because I'm talking with customers of my own, and they've built a nice solid framework with Selenium, and it works for them. And they come to me and say, "Oh, we heard about Flutter. Oh, we heard about Playwright. Should I switch to a new framework just because it's out there?" So my immediate question, I am happy to also hear your thoughts about it, because I keep getting asked, and I'm saying, if it ain't broken, don't fix it, right? If you have a good Selenium framework which does everything that you need from a use case perspective and coverage perspective, don't break it just because there is a new cool framework out there. Yes, if you have flakiness, if you don't have the ability to support all of the advanced use cases, and you find that Playwright can cover such use cases, then yes, by all means, go and explore, do a POC, a proof of concept, and adopt. And you don't need to throw, by the way, anything. You can just merge or use more than one framework to cover more ground. But you need to have this trigger, in my mind, within your life cycle, your project life cycle, that will enable you to do this switch, because it's costly. It's not just a one and done. So you need to be careful about that.
I agree, and I have mixed feelings, because I'm a big fan of anyone coming into our space and trying something new. I always want to see that investment in our space. I'm still not 100% sold on Playwright. However, I don't know if you know Andy Knight. He's been, so he's a big advocate of it, and has been talking about it. And so I'm getting a little more sold. I'm for anything that will increase the robustness of what we have available to us. Selenium is the standard, right? We've been using it for 20 years. We're going on 20. But there's always been the Selenium flakiness. So anything that's going to challenge us to make things more hardy will make me happy.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, and I think that we are in a stage right now of this industry of the evolution of test automation frameworks, that, as I demonstrated in my live demo of Cypress, right? Cypress now comes with its own recorder. Selenium now comes with a recorder. Playwright, by the way, and I know I've seen a session from Andrew Knight showing Playwright. Playwright has its own code generation inspector, so you can actually even automate and record and playback with Playwright as well. So it's becoming kind of an equal citizen, or table stakes to have code and scriptless within the same open source framework now, right? With Appium, we are hearing Test.ai contributing a piece of AI for code generation to the Appium community as well. So what we know right now and what we are going to see in 6 months might be different. So again, I would advise everyone to be on the lookout for advanced capabilities which can make us better testers. That's what we want to do, right? We want to do better testing, not because we want to cheer to ourselves. We want to find more bugs. We want to make sure that our quality just continue to grow, or if it's good enough, remains the same. And you can only do it with advanced technologies. We mentioned earlier the accessibility, but it's also across the board.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So let's see. Are there any other challenging questions that we can pick? Anything else that you wanted me to cover? I'm happy to do so.
So I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat. Somebody said something. I don't know if this is a tool or if this is just a random comment, but it says MOTI, M-O-T-I. Is there a tool I'm not aware of?
No, I don't know what it is.
Okay, all right. I wanted to make sure.
That's not a tool.
Give me 1 second.
Sure. And thank you for everyone that is with us online. And for those of you who thought that I was, in some cases, speaking a bit loud, it's not always me. I have a nice Jabra speaker, and it really adds to my voice. Yeah. My wife would say that I'm actually a low speaker, so I'm happy that actually you heard me good. But anyway, I had a great time, being here with you, Jenna, and thank you, to ZappleTech and the audience. Everyone was online with us, and if you have any other questions, either now or offline, I'm happy to take them.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It was wonderful having you here, and I really, really enjoyed your talk.